you cannot classify this under mental insanity or self-defense, and that's why this goes on our site. And I'll also talk to you about why the state here is legitimizing, the only true criteria for the state here is when they're doing this, is to legitimize results and to legitimize tremendous pain. And this is not something that the state can take a side on. This side on this cannot be justification of the state. So first rebuttal. We heard this idea of a woman and they have no other choice and they've lost faith in the police. Well, what we think about this issue of women having other choices is that they do not act violently in other forms of life. They do follow laws. They do accept society. They do act as, in appearance, as women who and functioning women. So we think this proves to us that here is a separation in their behavior, and that there is a calculation here that is taking place. And I'll add to that later on. So they said that other options are not available. Well, we say that even if other options aren't available for that woman in her state of mind, this still isn't a proportionate response to from the side of the state because it has tremendous ramifications that I'll also talk about here. So it's not enough to say that the woman doesn't have other choices. It doesn't mean that the state can legitimize killing that person. So they also brought up this idea in court about context and subjectivity. Well, we say that, yes, of course, we agree, fine. Take into account context and subjectivity when you're ruling. Obviously, we're not going to disagree with that. But we're saying that you're taking it too far. And that's what I'm going to talk about when we're talking about tremendous pain as a criteria for deciding decisions in court. And that's what they're doing here in this case, I think. Then we got this point about the fact that the state is to blame. Well, we say three answers to that. First of all, responsibility from the state can be taken in other ways if we feel that the state is responsible. We think the best way to take responsibility is imprisoning the threat and not letting the third person kill it. So we don't see how that is the role of the state if they're responsible for that. And we also think that the woman's life is ruined anyway, so we also don't see how, and their true responsibility is rehabilitation of the woman, and so we also think that that's the way that we take here is taking responsibility. So really that point is sort of not that good. Okay, so let's move to my first point, and I'm going to choose words from Bonit, which is indictive and instantaneous. Well, we say that this is not indictive and instantaneous, and it's not due to mental insanity. And first, I mentioned this issue of pre-medication and planning and foresight. We want to add here a crucial step and say that this means that this person can separate from intellect and emotion. Let's understand why. Because they're not thinking the moment. You see that they're not reliving the moment through the fact that they do not have these erratic, violent actions to other things. Other life is run in a normal way. They're able to function in other areas of life. They have the chance, they have seen their victim in many times, and yet they did not respond. So explain to me how the fact that they've had the chance to do so before and they didn't do so before doesn't prove to me that there was a calculation, that there was a thought behind it, that there was rational steps made and in a cool, planned way. We also say that the relation here, and we also say, as I said, is that relation here to violence is too specific. Yes, no?
Okay, most insane people know their victims for real before they kill them. The fact that it is premeditated doesn't mean that it's not based on an insane conception.
We think that the fact that that woman premeditated something, planned something, means that they know where they are in reality. They have a perception of reality, where they are in the short term versus the long term. They know what is happening to them. They have planned how to change the reality in a different way. And because of this, they have rational thought. So we have your rational thought for two reasons. We have your rational thought because of this separation from intellect and emotion, and because of this separation of their understanding of the short term versus the long term. This, in our definition, is rational thought. Rational thought, it does belong to that woman in that point in time, and therefore we cannot pass her by not having rational thought. We cannot use this to protect her in court. So what's the problem here with this? The problem here with this is that the court can prove to you that there isn't this insane sense, and now I'm moving to my second point, that the court here is truly relating to two criteria. One is the response, and second is the tremendous pain. Because there's no insanity here, that's what the court is deciding here when we agree with this proposition. So why the result? We see that the person, because we see a strong reaction, because we see a violent reaction of the woman, we're by the result itself that something really bad happened to her and she actually acted this way. So we're already going into her psyche and bringing these reasons, even before the reason itself. Also, obviously, the woman herself will use this as a defense. That makes sense, right? I mean, everyone would do that, to use it as a defense. So this also blocks us from actually going into her psyche. The second issue is tremendous pain. We say that this is too loose. You can't put people, and you can't justify people because they have tremendous pain. It's just too broad. People have mental abuse. People are discriminated against in many cases, in poor neighborhoods, in abuse that they have undergone in many ways. And yet we can't put tremendous pain as a scale. We can't say you have more tremendous pain and you have less tremendous pain. We have, there's too much subjectivity here, which the opposition continues to defend and defend. But we say, no, that's a problem. There's no way for me to say you hurt more and you hurt less. We think that's what the court here is doing. What the court here is doing at the end of the day is saying that pain and suffering justify the pain and suffering of others. And we, ladies and gentlemen, say that pain and suffering never justify pain and suffering, inflicting pain and suffering